In life, we really only have two choices. Now, this is the first choice. It's the one that most of us are tempted to take. It's the path of trying to change the people around us, the systems we live in, and even society itself, so that everything finally lines up with not just what we want, but what we think we need in order to be content in life. But here's the question. Is what we want based on our true values? Or is it actually just reflecting the part of us that still carries old wounds? Let's think about this. We might notice ourselves thinking, I need someone who's committed, someone who'll never leave me. Now at first, that feels like a healthy standard for love. But are we expecting somebody to stay no matter what? No matter how poorly the relationship functions or how challenging things get? And would you do the same if the roles were reversed? Would you stay in a completely dysfunctional situation? Often what feels like a desire for commitment is actually masking a deeper fear of abandonment, which is something that can be healed. Or how about, I just want to feel appreciated and seen in this relationship? Now that sounds completely normal. Who doesn't want that? But pause for a moment and look in the mirror. Often the frustration or disappointment we feel when it doesn't happen isn't really about them. It's a signal pointing to an old wound inside of us that still seeks acknowledgement or reassurance. When someone hurts us, it's easy to expect that they should never act that way again. When we feel neglected, it's natural to demand constant attention. When we grow up in chaos, it feels like the world owes us some stability. And that's why we push. That's why we fight. That's why we try to bend reality to accommodate our pain. But the world doesn't work that way. The goal should be to heal our pain so that we can then better accommodate the world. We can't expect our world to change so that we feel better. We need to learn how to feel better so that we have the confidence to change our world. And it's not just relationships where this shows up. Notice how often we want the world to match our political views. We demand that others think and act and vote the way that we believe is right. When someone disagrees, it feels like injustice, betrayal, or even personal attack. But take a step back and look in the mirror. The frustration usually isn't entirely about them. It's about a part of us that still seeks control and certainty or validation. The question isn't whether the other side is wrong. It's what's inside me that's triggered when reality doesn't match my expectations. Recognizing this doesn't mean we stop caring about society. It means we stop letting our internal wounds dictate how reactive, angry, or stressed we feel when things don't go our way. And the harder we try to control everything, the more frustrated, bitter, and exhausted we become. So that's choice one, asking the world to change so that we don't need to heal. This second choice is harder, but it is the path of freedom. Instead of trying to change the world, we turn the mirror inward. We begin to see that our frustration, judgment, or neediness is pointing to something inside of us that needs attention. We begin healing our wounds so they no longer run our lives. We stop seeing challenges as personal attacks and start seeing them as opportunities to grow. This doesn't mean we stop caring about justice or fairness. It means we stop expecting life to perfectly compensate for our pain. When we choose this path, the same situations start to look different. Betrayal becomes a lesson in boundaries. Loss becomes a lesson in love and perspective. And setbacks become lessons in resilience. Here's the reality check. Peace doesn't come from forcing the world to match our wounds. It comes from looking in the mirror, understanding our patterns, and reshaping our relationship to ourselves. At the end of the day, we really do have two choices. We can stay trapped, fighting the world to bend around our pain, or we can heal, adjust, and walk the journey with clarity and strength. And that choice, it is always yours. So here's some questions that we can always ask ourselves. Where in my life am I blaming others for what I'm really carrying inside? What old wound or past experience might be fueling my need for reassurance, control, or validation? How would my life look different if I focused on healing myself instead of trying to fix or control everyone else? If you're ready to ask yourself these questions and get the answers, This is exactly what we do at Discover You. We have created a place where you won't just talk about growth, you'll practice it. Through guided discussions, structured programs, and powerful online events, we'll help you identify emotional wounds, clarify your values, and build relationships rooted in awareness instead of fear. If you're ready to stop fighting the world and start understanding yourself, Discover You is where that journey begins.